The John Paul Jones Group are the first like heavy electric band we've had in our studios in over 2 years.
Oh, wow.
So this has been really fun for us. And I think I heard you mention earlier, you almost never play indoors.
Right.
Is that correct?
We're an outdoor band most of the time. Yes.
What sorts of events and venues do you play at then?
So we tend to put together events, a lot of VFWs and American Legions. We like to play those. We like to do anywhere where kids can be. So we'll set up in a park. It doesn't matter. We'll set up a show. So that's, we play the state fair. So we're playing a state fair this year on August 17th, I believe is the date. So that's kind of the things that we do: fairs and outdoor and community events.
And do you have personal reasons for wanting to do like these kind of family events? Like you stay away from bars and clubs?
I stay away from bars and clubs, number one, because I'm old and I don't want to play 4 hours. And the other thing is just I want to play where there's kids. That's like my own personal reason. I want to play where kids are able to come and see live music.
I've been to so many shows, and the kids are the only ones dancing.
Right.
Sometimes.
And having a good time and coming up in awe. I remember when I was a little kid and we all went and seen live music in the park or wherever, and they just don't have those opportunities as much anymore.
Mm-hmm. The album Broke in Bridge City came out a little over a year ago.
Yep, February 5th, 2021.
And these are all kind of true stories in the songs. The title track, Broken Bridge City, is about your hometown of Ottumwa.
Right. Yeah, I'm not originally from Ottumwa, but I've been there 28 years, and like every river town in Iowa, it has its own quirks and issues, and it's literally about those quirks and issues in our little river town.
I have to confess, I had not heard the term Bridge City to describe Ottumwa before hearing your music.
Right.
So is this something that is this a little bit of southeastern Iowa lingo? Kind
of like Iowegian, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're our motto in Ottumwa. They call it the City of Bridges. So it's kind of a play on that. Bridge City is kind of a play, like turning that into because Ottumwa doesn't come out good in a rhyme.
Never thought of it that way, but I guess that's true. Right. Yeah. There's a lot of very personal stories on the album, and one of them is "Youth is Wasted on the Young."
Yeah.
And are you willing to talk a little bit about that song?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, a lot of folks won't remember, but back in the mid '90s, early '90s. There was a school shooting that kind of rocked southeast Iowa, and during that time period when that happened, my brother, my youngest brother, he died. So that song has kind of got a lot to do with being young and some of the decisions you make. It's like your youth gets wasted because you have no wisdom, or you're not listening to folks with wisdom. And what makes me sad is, although that song was so real and relevant and to what I was going through, I was 1994 when I wrote that song, 93. Like yesterday, I turned on the news and it still makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's heavy times, and
it's heavy.
But the music has to reflect that. And is it hard doing these very personal, kind of heavy songs at some of these shows that you play at?
I don't think so, because I think they're universally relatable. I mean, I think everybody's got something in their town, like with Broken Bridge City, that makes sense. Lawnmower walking out of your shed, or buildings run down, and urban development, or economic development, or youth is wasted, where somebody you care about it gone too soon, too young. Mm-hmm. Those things are all there. Blue Ruin is about mental health. So
your choice of cover songs, I think, also seem like songs that you thought carefully about whether or not to play them. Like you didn't just decide to do a Journey song, or maybe you do that and I just haven't heard you do it.
Oh, no, you've never heard us do it. And,
okay.
And probably never will that. I pick songs people who have played with me over the last 25 years will tell you that I pick songs that I wish I had written, and they mean something to me. So when I pick a cover tune, it's not just about the guitar parts or the bass part. A lot of times it's the lyrics mean something to me, and I wish I had written that. So just like I wish my songs will hit somebody and they'll go, oh, I wish I wrote that. I pick those. Every song I pick is very personal.
When the band is performing live, we could tell you were feeling it over here. We can look over, see everybody grinning, kind of doing the meeting here in the middle. And so when that's happening on stage, what's the feeling there? What's that feel like?
Natural. It's like a natural thing. I mean, I'm probably the class clown in the band, but it's like if we're communicating on stage and the audience is a little bit a part of that communication, but in all reality, they get to observe, to me, the back door. They get to be the fly on the wall, and then when we turn, we're bringing you into the conversation. Our whole goal, but I can't help but move. The music moves me. The guys in the band help move me. I mean, when they're doing something cool, it's gonna make me move.
You mentioned you do a lot of outdoor shows, and you've got the Iowa State Fair coming up. That made me think about, what do you do during the colder months for shows?
I do no shows during the colder months. So we basically start in May and we end in October. And then this is Iowa. I go to the woods and everybody else gets a vacation.
Mm-hmm. All right. Are you still writing music?
Every winter. That's what I use the winter. The winter time is for me to write songs and record songs. I have a studio, so that's what I do. But pretty much the summer is me just being with my brothers in the band and going and playing. That's what we do. And then they get a break from my eccentric ways so usually about October we're done. And we don't reconvene until after the holidays in into February, and then we start geared up to go out and play again. So the writing happens in the middle of that. When we couldn't play for a year, that was what happened with Broken Bridge City. That's how it got released. And then over that time when we still couldn't play, I think I wrote 90 songs over that time period. So we have a lot of material.
So any plans to record more?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Right now it's like a live album is important to me and a live DVD. Because these guys, they put up with my mess and they deserve to be on a record.
What else do you have on the horizon other than some of these shows and writing some more music in the, I guess we'll call it the off season? So
in the off season, the hope for next year is that we're recording all these series of shows we're doing now. For the first time in several years, we're doing some theater shows, indoor theater shows. It's been, I don't do a lot of indoor shows, but we decided to do some theater shows. So we're crossing state borders and going to Illinois and going to Nebraska. But the goal is to release a DVD. That's the next project for me, is a live DVD with these two fellows in the band, because it's probably the best version of the band that we've ever had. So
I don't spend a lot of time in these interviews asking about musical equipment. That's kind of a niche audience within the niche audience. But I haven't seen an Ibanez 7-string guitar in a long time, and that's really a key part of your sound.
It's, the 7-string, like personal stuff. Those two 7-strings, the one, they're twins. We call them the Terror Twins. I bought my first Universe Ibanez. My son was born. My youngest son just graduated college. He's 24. He's 24 years old. I'm going to get in trouble. I left the hospital because a fella at the music store called me and said he got one in. So he's good. I went down from the hospital, bought the guitar, and brought it back to the hospital with me. So that's his brother, per se. So they're twins. And then I got another one a few years later, and they're just an extension. They're my favorite guitar. I own a lot of guitars, but them are probably the only two that I play.
IPR, we are based in kind of central and kind of northern Iowa, and we don't get down to the southeastern corner as much as we would like. So what is it like as a musician in that kind of like, you're down Ottumwa, you're sort of near Keokuk and Burlington. What is the music scene like in these parts?
Well, for the most part, it's club dates. We don't. It's funny for us that we play like along what I call the Mississippi River corridor, and you know, so Keokuk to Dubuque, we flow along that and then try to jump and then across Highway 2 and down into Missouri. It's a vibrant community. There's music every weekend somewhere. Someone's playing. A lot of musicians, a lot of great musicians down there, and every type of style you could imagine. You know, it seems like down there though, because we're less population, it's not a whole bunch of like one style. It's like each artist everybody's got their own niche. So like no one really does what I do. I haven't seen anybody statewide really that does what I do. So, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of musicians. What we lack because of the economics of Southeast Iowa, which we all know, is venues. That was the reason why we started a production company, why we have a mobile stage, why we have production and sound, because the place is all dried up. When I first moved to Ottumwa, when I came back from being on the road, I could probably play 5 nights a week in Southeast Iowa. I'd be lucky if I could play 5 nights in 5 months in the club situation. Like they just don't exist. So now you have to people still want to see music, just the venues and the buildings don't exist anymore. And that's kind of a little bit about Broken Bridge City's kind of that too.
So you spend a fair amount of time on the road then? Yeah,
I'd say we try to keep it to a 300-mile radius of Ottumwa, but we also have an office in Clive, so we try to play the Des Moines area. We don't play it as much though. Southeast, that tri-state area is kind of where we're Iowa, Illinois, Missouri.
And this is clearly like this kind of focusing on this tri-state area. This is clearly like important to you. This is like almost a mission.
Yeah,
it kind of sounds like.
So my family is from the Sheraton Valley area of Rathbun Lake. We've been there since 1863, and so that whole area is very important to me. It's like I'm an Iowegian. Like black folks from Southeast Iowa call themselves Iowegians. We don't. Not that we're not Iowans, but that was just kind of, I grew up, I never even knew the term Iowan until I was like 8th grade.
Oh, wow.
Because when my great-grandmother would say she was an Iowegian, so when people ask me, you mean Norwegian? No, just a black family from the hills of Appanoose and Monroe County, Appanoose County mainly. So that's where I'm from, and that's where that kind of comes from. And that whole area is important to me. Like, it's very important that the kids there see other people and the rest of the world sees, hey, there are people like me that live in the rural communities of Iowa. We exist. We're not unicorns.
Juneteenth is coming up, which was only fairly recently declared a holiday. And so does that have added meaning this year?
Yeah, to me, it means a lot. With my family history and with most folks, I think it's important. I mean, I think people have to have a cultural heritage, and having a holiday that's part of that, I think that's great. You know, I like that holiday as long as it's non-commercialized, and it doesn't seem to be commercialized hardly at all. I think it's great. I mean, I think it's great to look at history and go, hey, we did this, and now we're here, and we're doing things better, or things need to be a little bit better. I think it's a good reminder, and so that's how I feel about that.
And you get to, we get acknowledge history and put out positive vibes and play some really loud, fun music while we're at it.
Loud and fun, that's what we're all about.
Yep. It was fun hearing a Thin Lizzy song, too.
Oh, yeah. So I'm kind of a music historian, because if you grow up in the country and north of Lake Rathbun, at my age group, I'm 53, you didn't have a whole lot to pull from, 3 channels on the television, but every time I when I realized that Phil Lynott looked like me, I started to read about him, and then realized that in Ireland there was this guy that grew up and had the same experiences as I had as a kid in Albia, Iowa. And I've just always gravitated towards his music ever since then. And I was really young when I discovered his music because I have older brothers that showed it to me.
Is that kind of how you discovered the music of like I saw you doing the two-handed tapping, the Eddie Van Halen kind of thing?
Yeah, I'm in Eddie Van Halen came out in 1978. I think I'm in fourth grade, and really discovered him probably about the time I started picking up a guitar. And yeah, but my folks were into jazz, so they loved Les Paul, and I'd seen Les do the tap, so I'd been mimicking that for a long time. And Eddie showed the way.
Yes, he did. Well, it's been a real pleasure having you here today. I loved hearing the band. I've really enjoyed our time together. And John Paul Jones, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. If there's nothing else.
You didn't ask me where the name came from. Almost everybody does that.
You know what? Yeah, this will be a great little... where did the name for the John Paul Jones group come from?
So... I get mistaken for John Baldwin of Led Zepplin when people see me online, which is John Paul Jones is a stage name for him. But I tell people that the John Paul Jones group has been around longer than him because my father was named after his mother's brother, John, and his father's brother, Paul. So I'm John Paul Jones Jr. He was senior, and we have a John Paul Jones III, which is my son. So that name is a family name. So like when you talk about personal, it's personal all the way to the name of the band.
Wow.